Hi Access riders, I've got 3 foils here that I've been riding for a while now and I just thought I'd do a quick review. I've got 2 BSC foils, the 890 and the 970, and I've got one of the HPS range, the 980. I'm going to start off with the BSC foils. So the 970 is the third in the size range. So you've got the 3 biggest, this is the smallest of the 3 biggest, and then you've got the 3 smallest, this is the biggest of the 3 smallest. So they're both next to each other. If you say that the biggest one is number 1, then the 970 is the 3rd one, and the 890 is the 4th one in the series of the BSC range. So what can I say about them? Well, they are thick foils, and when I first saw them I thought slow, but really they're not. But the beauty about them is that they are happy going slow. If I put the foils a little bit closer, you'll be able to see the leading edge of both of those and how the thickness goes back. In actual fact, what might be a bit more helpful is if I compare the HPS 980 with the BSC 890, the BSC being on top, and you should be able to see the difference in thickness. So there's no one design aspect that I can say is responsible for any of the performance characteristics, because obviously they all merge together to allow a foil to perform the way it does. The BSC foils have been designed primarily, I believe, to be foiled in waves. So they are surf foils. But they are surprisingly good at wing foiling as well. The 890 here was every bit as fast as the HPS 980, but when you're not using it for wing foiling, it's got a much more calmer or sedate speed to it. Now we know it can go as fast, but it's so much easier to control that speed. And what really struck me as being lovely about these BSC foils was that they go the right speed for the wave. It really does. It doesn't try and outrun it. I didn't ever feel like I had to do anything to get it to go fast enough for the conditions. It just seems to be able to go the speed that you need it to go. It's quite uncanny like that. So it really feels like it's helping you out, making life easier. Turning was really, really good. I found these had a very surfy type feel. What do I mean? What does anybody mean when they say, oh yeah, that foil's got a surf type feel? That hasn't. Well, for me personally, it was reminiscent of surfing, you know, a normal surfboard and a normal wave. Obviously you're foiling, so it's never going to be exactly the same. But the difference between the real high aspect fast wings and the more mid aspect surfy type wings is that these, you can really hold the speed through the turn, and it doesn't race away from you and get out of control. Not only that through the calves, but you can do really tight cutbacks or pivot turns, literally turning around the wingtip. And as such, these, I think, you know, it's reminiscent of proper surfing because you've got that different range of manoeuvres that you can do on a surfboard. Yeah, so very stable, very easy to use. In terms of its roll axis, good control, good reactivity, but very very stable. It didn't feel like skatey or not skatey. It didn't feel like that type of squirrely, you know, you have to worry about the roll from wingtip to wingtip. Pitch control, very easy to handle when you get used to it. I found it a little bit pitchy to begin with, but as soon as you dial it in, absolutely not a problem at all. Now, pumping. There's two ways that I look at pumping. First of all, downwinding. So just pumping to stay on the swell, pumping to move ahead to the swell, pumping to turn off and rejoin another bump so that you can carry on downwinding. That's the first type of pumping. The second type of pumping is turning off the wave and pumping out back so that you can connect to another wave. Reminiscent of flat water pumping, it's the same sort of feel. So for downwind pumping, it was good. It wasn't exceptional, but it was good. Now bearing in mind that's not what this foil is designed for, but it can cope with it. But for flat water pumping and pumping out back to connect to other waves, this was amazing. It's really, really good. So because it naturally finds its speed slightly lower than the HPS range, it's got a lower stall speed, it's therefore easier to pump, and you have to put less energy into pumping it. I just felt like it was really forgiving of any mistakes. If you've got messy water conditions, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to stop or you're not going to get thrown off the foil as soon as you make a mistake or something happens. So yeah, really easy to pump. And I was just hugely impressed by the 890, really impressed by how easy it was to use, but also how well it performed. I mean, this felt like a smaller foil to me when I was surfing it. You can throw it around really nicely, stay in control, yet the ease of pumping was just a really, really nice addition to it all. So yeah, really impressed with the 890. For me, this is a prone foil. I can imagine people would be able to subfoil with it, no problem at all, if you're at a reasonable level. But for me, yeah, it's a really good all-round prone foil, wake foil. You can wing with it, but I personally prefer the faster, more higher aspect ratio foils for winging, but it can easily cope with it. Okay, so that's the 890, the larger of the three BSC foils that need the black fuselage. So this is the 970 BSC. This is the smallest of the three large sizes, and as such it still needs the red S fuselage. Now this is a chunky foil. This, not only to hold and compare, but riding it, it also felt like there was a big gap between the 890 and the 970. I mean, a really big gap. I sort of, when I was using the two side by side, I was thinking, surely there should be a middle one, because, you know, this is definitely a subfoil. I wouldn't, maybe you could prone it on really small waves, but really you're missing that maneuverability. This is super stable. This is super stable, super easy to use, and I think it's an amazing subfoil. It really, really makes everything so much easier. Having said that, it's not the most dynamic in terms of responsiveness or maneuverability, but it easily makes up for it from being able to catch waves easily. It's got lovely lift. The lift isn't overpowering at all. It carves really, really nicely, but like I say, everything's smooth and calm, and you know, I don't think it'll let you take it past a certain point of you know, response. I tried. You know, admittedly, I haven't used it for months and months, but I've given it a good go, and it's one of those foils where I feel safe to use in a pretty big range of conditions as a subfoil. For wing foiling, it's too slow for me. I didn't find it exciting from that application, but for beginners, awesome, absolutely awesome for wing foiling. No two ways about it. So yeah, it does what it's designed to do really, really well. Okay, now the HPS 980. You may have noticed a little change in the scenery. That's because I totally cocked up everything that I had to say about the 980. So here goes, third time lucky. The 980 for me has got the biggest range of use out of any foil. Maybe there's one other that does such a good, has such a good range. But really, this is amazing. This foil has many, many good characteristics, and right up there for me is the range of use. So I'm not just talking about foiling disciplines, like wing foiling, does it brilliantly. Downwinding, amazing. Prone and sup foiling on waves or on the wake, just brilliant. It does everything really, really well. But also, I'm talking about its range of performance in terms of it's got a really good high end. It performs so well in powered up conditions, but it's also got a really good low end. I can't tell you how versatile this foil is and how good a job it does in all host conditions. So, first of all, wing foiling. I clocked amongst the highest times of all the foils that I've been testing recently with this foil. I thought it was faster, to be honest, because it felt faster. But the times were you know, all right up there, fairly comparable. So this is going out really like overpowered wing foiling to see how fast I can push the foils. And yeah, it was up there with the best times. But like I say, it felt much faster than the others. As such, it's a really exciting foil to use. But that's not to say that it feels like you're out of control. It has a really in-control feel to it. I would say that it's one of those foils that's really easy to use. I genuinely had less wipeouts and less sort of errors, made less errors with this than most other foils. So I found myself being able to really push the limits, especially carving. I mean, wow, I was really trying to carve harder and faster, and it just got more and more exciting as I sort of unlocked more of its potential. I don't think I've gotten close to reaching its limits yet. So for wing foiling, you can go really fast. It turns amazingly. It's got awesome glides. So you know, when you're doing any jibes or tacks or transitions, anything like that, it really helps you. It's just phenomenal. Right, don't want to miss anything. This is where I cocked up last time. So its low end for wing foiling really surprised me. So you can slow it right down just at the last minute before a wave face or a bit of swell, and you can really turn it hard or like a tight arc, a tight turn to get onto the wave. And it just does that with ease. It really fills you with confidence and such a lovely feeling, you know, turning hard onto a nice big bit of swell. So low end, like I say, really, really good. Its stall speed when you're winging, just need that little bit of power from the wing or from the swell, and its stall speed is nothing to worry about at all. Pumping downwind is amazing. It's got so much glide. What can I say? It's happened again. Try and push through it this time. Not far to go. Okay, so one of the last few things I want to talk about was the pumping. How the 980 pumps. So the two types that I was talking about before, pumping down when downwinding, awesome. There's not many that are better. I think the HPS range excel in terms of pumping downwind, and that's really one of the areas where the HPS range outstrips the BSC that were there. The BSC range are good at pumping out back to connect to waves. which is all good and right because they are primarily surf foils. So making that easier is really good. Not to say that these are really difficult for pumping out back, but you've got to keep their speed up. They are a fast foil, therefore their stall speed is going to be higher, and you must keep your speed up to be able to keep pumping. But they're fairly easy to keep the speed up. And wow, when you are pumping, you go so fast. I was amazed at how fast I can pump this. It's incredible. So yeah, pumping in both aspects, it performs really well. Surfing itself, it was surprisingly good. I've got to say, it's not the fastest to initiate a rail-to-rail turn. So on the roll axis, it's very stable, which sort of, that's the only part of this foil where I've missed the performance of a couple of other foils that have got a much looser roll. But it's not to say that it's a problem, because it's still responsive, it's just not lightning fast. And if the roll is too loose, then a lot of people find that sort of unnerving, because it can come across as a little bit sort of easy to lose control, or some people describe it as being squirrely. So, overall, an amazing foil at so many different disciplines. Range of use is phenomenal. For me personally, for wing foiling, got the 1300 for super light conditions. The 980 is my go-to foil for pretty much most conditions. When it's going ballistic, I feel that I would like to have something smaller. Now the 980, it then goes the 930, the 930, then the 880, and then the 700. For my size and weight, I'm 6'2" and 85 kilograms. I might be able to handle the 700, but it's really small, and I think really is better suited to be for tow foiling, for me anyway. So I personally can't wait to try the 880 for those really nuking ballistic days. So that for me would be my perfect three-wing quiver, the 1300 from the Pump and Glide range, the 980 here, and then the 880. I would miss the BSC 890 because it's such a good foil at surfing. But really, I like the way these surf, so I'm not, I don't feel like I'm missing out on the surf side of things. So I suppose it comes down to where you're, what type of conditions you have in your local area. If it's predominantly surf, then I would recommend the BSC range. If it's predominantly wing foiling or downwinding, I would definitely prefer and recommend the HPS range. So there we go, HPS range, BSC range, just a few of the sizes that I've been lucky enough to try. I hope this has helped. If you've got any questions, fire them at me, I'll do my best to answer. Happy foiling!